In the year 1324, a peasant mason near York, England, was building the cathedrals we still see today. His fuel was bread, not a slice or two. He ate up to 2 or 3 pounds of it every single day. This dense, dark, chewy bread was over 70% of his daily calories, and it made him strong. Now, fast forward to today. We eat a couple of slices of our soft, fluffy white bread, and we feel bloated, tired. We get brain fog, digestive distress, and a strange hunger that comes back an hour later. Today, an estimated 1 in 5 people report some form of wheat sensitivity. Celiac disease has seen a sharp rise, and for millions more, doctors offer a vague diagnosis of non-celiac gluten sensitivity. So, what happened? What did a 14th century peasant, with none of our science, know about bread that our modern food industry has forgotten? The answer is a story of speed versus time. The secret is a hidden compound that modern baking ignores, a compound that is actively robbing you of minerals with every slice you eat. This is the story of how we lost real bread and how we can get it back. To understand what went wrong, you have to look inside your supermarket loaf, that perfectly square, pre-sliced bread that can sit on your counter for 2 weeks without mold isn't the product of a baker, it's the product of a factory. The decline began with the flour. For thousands of years, stone grinding crushed the entire grain, the starchy endosperm, the nutrient-rich germ, and the fibrous bran. It was complete. But in the 19th century, the steel roller mill changed everything. It was ruthlessly efficient. It stripped away the bran and the germ, leaving only the white, starchy endosperm. This was a commercial breakthrough. The new white flour had a longer shelf life and made a softer bread. The problem is, we stripped out the nutrition. The bran and germ contain the vast majority of the grain's vitamins, minerals, and fiber. To fix this, governments mandated the enrichment of white flour. But this is like stealing a car, stripping it for parts, and then proudly returning the steering wheel, a fraction of what was lost. But that was only the first step. The final blow to traditional bread happened in 1961. It's the year bread died. At a research facility in Chorleywood, England, scientists perfected the Chorleywood bread process, or CBP, a method that now accounts for an estimated 80% of bread in the UK and has been adopted worldwide. Traditional bread making takes time, hours, sometimes days. The Chorleywood process replaces time with chemical additives, extra yeast, and intense mechanical energy. High-speed mixers develop the dough in minutes. A loaf can go from raw flour to a wrapped, sliced product in about 3.5 hours. Not 24 hours, 3.5. This process requires a cocktail of dough improvers, emulsifiers, enzymes, oxidizing agents. Hard fats are added for structure. Salt and yeast quantities are often doubled. The result is a product that looks like bread, but behaves very differently in your body. The rapid rise leaves its proteins and starches in a raw state. Its high glycemic index, comparable to table sugar, causes a dramatic blood sugar spike, followed by a crash. So when you feel that bloating, that brain fog, it's not you. It's your body's logical response to a substance it struggles to recognize as food. You're not eating bread. You're eating a product of the Chorleywood bread process. And the most important ingredient, the one that made peasant bread so nourishing, has been completely eliminated: time. Let's travel back to a medieval village. The air smells of wood smoke, livestock, and baking bread. Bread wasn't a side dish, it was the meal. But the peasant's bread was vastly different from the refined white loaves of the nobility. Their bread was a work of accidental genius. First, the flour. A peasant couldn't afford to plant only wheat. It was too risky. So they planted a mix of grains in the same field, most often wheat and rye. They called it maslin. In a good year, the wheat thrived. In a cold, wet year, the hardier rye would still produce a crop. This was an insurance policy against famine. These grains grew together, were harvested together, and milled together. The flour might also contain barley, oats, or even ground peas. Nothing was sifted out. It was a true whole grain flour, gritty and full of life. Now, for the magic. How did they make this heavy flour rise? They had two secret weapons, the sourdough starter and the local brewery. The sourdough starter was a living culture of wild yeasts and bacteria captured from the air. A baker might make one by burying a dense ball of rye flour and water in a sack of flour for several days, letting it ferment. A piece of each day's dough was saved to start the next loaf, a living chain connecting that village's bread for generations. Their other leavening agent was even more ingenious, ale barm. In a time when beer was safer than water, every village had a brewery. Bakers would skim the thick, frothy foam off a fermenting batch of ale. Medieval bakers called it barm, and they treated it like liquid gold. This foam was alive, a powerful culture of brewer's yeast. It gave the bread a faster rise than sourdough alone, but kept the benefits of fermentation. A beautiful symbiosis between the brewer and the baker. The entire process was slow. The dough would ferment for hours, sometimes an entire day. This wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. But within that long, slow fermentation, the wild bacteria and yeasts were performing complex biochemical transformations. They were predigesting the bread. They were unlocking its nutrients and disarming its natural defenses. This is where we move from history to biology. To understand why that peasant loaf was a superfood, we need to talk about a compound called phytic acid. Phytic acid is an anti-nutrient. It's the natural defense mechanism in the bran of all grains. Think of it as a bodyguard for the seed's nutrients. The problem for us is how it works. When you eat unfermented whole grains, the phytic acid molecule latches onto essential minerals, iron, zinc, magnesium, calcium, and locks them up. Your body can't break this bond. You don't have the right enzyme. As a result, those vital minerals pass straight through your system, unabsorbed. The phytic acid acts like a mineral thief, starving you from the inside. Here's the secret the medieval peasant stumbled upon. While our bodies can't defeat phytic acid, humble bacteria can. The sourdough starter, that living culture of wild yeast and lactic acid bacteria, is the key. During the long, slow fermentation, the bacteria produce organic acids. This lowers the pH of the dough, making it acidic. This acidic environment activates an enzyme already in the grain's bran, called phytase. Phytase is the natural enemy of phytic acid. In the warm, acidic sourdough, phytase goes into overdrive. Study after study confirms this. A long sourdough fermentation can reduce the phytic acid in whole wheat bread by up to 90%. In one study, simply fermenting whole wheat flour for 4 hours cut phytic acid by 60%. The mineral thief is disarmed. The iron, zinc, and magnesium are unlocked and made bioavailable for your body. Your modern industrial loaf, which rises in minutes, completely skips this step. The commercial yeast doesn't create the acidic environment. The fermentation time is too short. The phytic acid in your whole wheat bread remains intact, ready to lock up nutrients. But the benefits don't stop there. The bacteria also predigest the gluten proteins, breaking them down into more digestible amino acids. This is why many people with non-celiac gluten sensitivity find they can tolerate genuine sourdough without the bloating and discomfort. The fermentation also lowers the bread's glycemic index. The sugars release into your bloodstream more slowly, providing sustained energy and preventing the blood sugar spikes of modern bread. The medieval peasant didn't know the words phytase or glycemic index, but through generations of observation, he perfected a biological process that turned a simple grain into a nutritional powerhouse. We are eating bread that is sterile, raw, and actively working against us. The only real difference is time. So, what do we do? This knowledge isn't a condemnation. It's an invitation to bring the principles of the peasant loaf back into our lives. Here's how. Step 1. Become a bread detective. Stop seeing bread as a cheap commodity. It is either nourishing you or depleting you. You must become a label detective. If the ingredients list is a paragraph of words you can't pronounce, put it back. Look for the word sourdough. But here's the trick. Many supermarket sourdough loaves are what the real bread community calls sourfaux. They're made with the same rapid rise process, with a bit of sourdough flavoring or vinegar added for taste. Look at the ingredients. If you see yeast listed, it's almost certainly fake. Real sourdough has 3 ingredients: flour, water, salt. That's it. Step 2. Seek out the artisan. The best way to find real bread is to bypass the supermarket and find a local artisan baker. These are the modern-day heirs to the peasant tradition. Talk to them. Ask, how long do you ferment your dough? A good baker will be proud to tell you, 18 hours, 24 hours, or longer. Ask, do you use any commercial yeast? The answer should be no. Yes, this bread costs more. You are not just paying for flour and water. You are paying for time. You are paying for the microbial labor that unlocks the grain's nutrients. You are paying for bread that will actually nourish you. The final step is to become the peasant baker. Making your own sourdough is simpler than you think. You don't need fancy machines. You just need flour, water, salt, and your hands. Here's the medieval method. First, mix rye flour and water into a stiff ball of dough, about the size of your fist. Second, bury that ball deep inside a container of flour. This keeps it cool, dark, and protected. Third, wait 12 to 24 hours. When you dig it out, it should smell sweet and slightly alcoholic, like overripe fruit. That's the bacteria working. Fourth, dissolve that fermented ball in warm water. Use that milky liquid to start your main bread dough. Fifth, before you bake, pinch off a small piece of the new dough, roll it into a ball, and bury it again for next time. Your first attempt might be dense. The starter might smell weird for a few days. That's normal. Keep going. After a week or two, it will stabilize. It will be real bread, made with time and care. For centuries, our ancestors ate bread that was fundamentally alive, a symbiosis between grain, microbes, and man. Today, we've traded that nourishment for speed, and our health is paying the price. The difference between a 14th century peasant loaf and a 21st century supermarket loaf is immense. One is a product of slow biological transformation. The other is a product of fast chemical engineering. One unlocks nutrients, the other locks them away. But this is an invitation to choose. You can continue to eat the empty, industrial product, or you can seek out the bakers who honor the old ways. Better yet, you can bring this ancient tradition into your own kitchen. The solution to so many of our modern gut issues isn't hiding in an expensive supplement or a restrictive diet. It's been waiting for us for 700 years in the simple, profound wisdom of the peasant baker. If you've had your own journey with real bread, share it in the comments. And if you found this valuable, subscribe for more. Because understanding where our food comes from is the first step toward taking back control of our health. Choose wisely and eat well.